Welcome back to DXB Today, where we're looking to the future today from, well, what is regarded by many as one of the cities of the future. But what does living look like in the future, and how can we promise a more sustainable future? Well, with net zero targets on the horizon, real estate sector is accelerating its efforts to reduce its impact on the environment. And with me now is Alida Saleh, the head of sustainability at JLL, one of the biggest consultancies in the world. Great to have you with us here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Thanks for being on board. And I suppose let's start with the challenges, if we can, because I think, you know, there's no company out there, there's no individual out there at the moment that says, we would like to be more sustainable. But what is, from a company and from a corporate point of view, and especially specifically when it comes to real estate, what's the biggest challenge at the moment to tick the box of sustainability? Or is that the challenge, that people are seeing it as a box that needs to be ticked?
Well, that's a really great question, because you have to look at it from two perspectives. Is becoming net zero really a cost implication, or are you future-proofing your assets? So I think that's the debate that we really have to get, you know, to the crux of, because when we look at it from JLL and when I'm advising my clients, we always talk about the long-term viability of your assets, right? We're not building for tomorrow. We are building for 10, 15, 20, 100 years from today. And we know climate change is real. It's here now. So how are we going to mitigate the impacts? I was actually, as I was driving in today, thinking about April last year when we had the floods in the UAE. And if you think about it, you know, the catastrophes that we faced in that moment, you know, whether it was the cost implications of infrastructure, damage to our properties, there was a lot of implications that we felt. So when we look at it from a real estate perspective, and when we're helping our clients, we build climate resilience as a part and parcel in the heart of the way that we help our clients design. So when you look at resilience, it becomes actually future-proofing your assets, and you actually have a lot more value at the end. So you avoid brown discounts, because assets that are built today, which may not look at net zero and sustainable features, may not be assets that are demanded for in the future. And, you know, investors today are looking for sustainable products. There are many investors who are coming from Europe, North America, who will not invest their money into properties or even into investment funds that don't have the right ESG metrics. So as much as, you know, the geopolitical situation is today, we are seeing that the driver behind sustainable real estate is still there, because you have to be able to value it from, you know, the cost benefit analysis of what does climate resilience look like at your property. Is it okay to have your property flooded? What does health and well-being look like? Because sustainability and health and well-being are one and integrated, right? So to answer your question, I think of it as an opportunity. And we work with our clients really to help them understand what the benefits are, because there will always be a cost implication, whether you do it upfront to invest in becoming more prudent, or you're going to have it come to you regardless as a cost implication to retrofit it.
Well, Alida, what's on the health point?
Yeah.
What's your vision for what a healthy, sustainable city looks like?
Well, I think it's a city that really prioritizes walkability, connectivity, I think enhancing air quality, making sure that people are thriving in where we live. You know, cities are where we experience our world, you know, and the built environment is where we spend 90% of our time. So where we spend 90% of our time, we actually take it for granted of how we feel in that space. And what do developers sell? They're selling an experience, right? You may be selling an asset, but think about the assets that are doing really well. Those are the ones either, you know, that are creating communities where people can meet each other, where health and well-being is primary there, because mental health and well-being is just as important as your actual health. You know, I look at sustainability as intertwined with health, because the more efficient you are in the way you do things, you optimize your air quality, you're improving your water quality, you're optimizing the way people feel in that space. Now imagine a space that you live in and you have no sunlight, you know, I'm sure we've all experienced this, you know, it's draggy in that space. How do you feel when you're working? Your productivity is probably half. So you need to be able to create these healthy and thriving places.
What do you think are one key factor that you think cities, not necessarily just Dubai, but cities all over the world, need to prioritize to improve like residents' like daily life?
I think, one thing that's really important is people need to understand that it's in their hands of how they behave. And a city can be as good and optimized as the way your occupants behave. So we, a lot of times, deflect that, saying it's the government's job to put the regulations in. It's the developer's job to do a great job. But the experience of a community is also done through the developers who work with the communities to enhance its experience. So for example, how I dispose my waste, if I'm educated on the fact that a plastic water bottle could take up to 500 years to decompose, would I actually go for that plastic water bottle? So everyday activities have a huge impact. Taking short showers, like I love this. I love singing in the shower, but when I actually did some research, I found out that if you take really long showers, the amount of energy that, the water that you waste, the energy that you use is equivalent to hundreds of Olympic-sized pools if like a lot of us did that together. So I think it's about all of us taking that small step because the impacts are huge. So really it's up to us, each one of us, to take that responsibility.
Or sing shorter songs in the shower.
Well, I still sing, but I have, I do
lullaby.
have that.
That's all you need, yeah.
I think I'm one of the few people who don't enjoy long showers. So
Really?
I'll take a little star for that. So a lot of people moving to the city right now. We've been talking about the increase in traffic, of course. For people looking to invest in real estate here in Dubai and the UAE and beyond, what are some of the, let's say, the top 3 things they should be looking out for and some of the hurdles that they should be aware of as well?
Yeah, I think that we need to look for developers who have net zero targets or areas that are actually looking at optimize, which I love that the UAE has their own net zero targets for 2050. So we know that the government is going to start enacting legislations. It's coming sooner rather than later. So for those who are thinking ahead, and there are many, many developers, Expo City being one of them, are already really progressive in the way that they're thinking. So investors need to look at what are your net zero targets? How is your community going to be accessible to metros, walkability, making sure that you have access to the amenities of life, right? You need to make sure that the connectivity is there. And then how are you going to look at renewable energy mixed into the integrated city? So looking at renewable energy, optimized, net zero targets, and then how are you feeling in that area? So those are the key things that we talk about. But from an investor perspective, they really need to look at net zero targets.
All right. And don't forget your mental health, guys. Don't forget your mental health.
Yeah.
Alida, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much
Thank
indeed
you.
for being with us. Thank you very much indeed for giving us that insight as well. And thanks for everything that you and all the team at JLL do. So thank you for being with us. Stay with us though, because I believe it's time now for Dina's quiz.
It is, and we do love to put our guest co-host on the spot to get to know you a little bit better.
All right.
Get your opinion. You ready? You ready to go? We've got, is it 1 minute? We're going to do a countdown, and we'll see how many questions we get through. You ready?
Is this the City of the Future themed quiz?
Sure, kind of. All right, let's cue the timer. 1, 2, 3, and go. What do you think that every future city needs?
Every future city needs excellent transportation.
Okay, how do you practice sustainability on a personal level? Just one example.
I have an eco warrior at home. She's 7 years old and she educates me every day on what we should and should not be doing. And I think that's a direct result of everything that we have been talking about. So we've got this incredible youthful generation in the UAE that knows much more than we do.
Inspiring us, yeah. What's the newest secret gem that you've discovered in Dubai this year?
A Mexican restaurant in Al Barsha, and I can't remember the name of it, so that's a really terrible.
Please WhatsApp me because I live in Al Barsha.
But I love Mexican food.
What's your favorite place to work from in Dubai? Somewhere you go for meetings, maybe.
Yeah, my favorite place to work from in Dubai is a combination of Expo City Dubai and home.
Fair enough. Now, if you could have dinner with a celebrity, where would you take them in Dubai?
Mimi Kakushi, which is a great Japanese restaurant.
And lastly, we always ask, why Dubai?
Why Dubai? I've been here for 16 years. It's my newly adopted home. My parents moved here, which is why I came. And I couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Thank you so much for being on our show. Both of you ladies have been wonderful and inspiring and so educational.
Thank you for having me.
Nadia Virtue, thank you very much indeed for guest
Thank
co-hosting.
you.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Indeed, again, thank you for that. Right, stay with us because we've got a rather special artist to play us out. I mentioned earlier that Sir Paul McCartney gave him his degree. He's worked with the likes of Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. He's open for some of the biggest artists in town. Tonight, he's all ours right here on DXB Today. Ryan Gibb up next.